to episode 40 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk, and today is the 17th of May. So how are you? I hope you've had a nice couple of weeks. So I'm so sorry I didn't podcast last week. It was just crazy, so I just thought I'd leave it till this week and then it'll be all relaxed and lovely. So thank you so much for joining me and waiting for 3 weeks for a new podcast. Sorry guys. So we've got some knitting, some sewing, some bobbin lace, some patchwork, embroidery, some blast from the past and gadget as normal, and then I have some confessions. I'm going to talk about the winners for the craft alongs and knit alongs that I've been hosting in the Ravelry group, and then I'm going to show some of the yarn that I've got for my shop update, which is tomorrow, the 18th of May at 6 o'clock. You can find links to my Ravelry group, my Instagram account and my Etsy shop in the down bar, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of information on the sort of craft alongs that I've got on at the moment, and then we'll get on with the knitting. So we've got the Christmas craft along that's running at the moment in the Ravelry group. So if you haven't heard about it before, it ran from the beginning of the year right up to the end of November, so that we can get all our Christmas things done before December started, so we can relax at Christmas. And you don't have to actually finish anything. I just want you to come and chat about what you've been making or ideas of what you want to make. You don't have to have finished objects, and you don't have to put a photograph in every post. So just come and say hello and chat along and see what other ideas that people have. I'm drawing a couple of prize winners out of the thread every month. So the winners will be drawn at the end for the April part of the Christmas craft along. I'm so sorry it's late, but I will try and get on time with things next at the end of this month, at the end of May. So don't forget to come and chat to us in that group. The Buttercup sock along, which is these socks that we knitted. I designed this pattern that went along with a kit that me and Kelly Lay from Lay Family Yarn had dyed up the yarn for. We'd been doing a knit along together, so people had popped their finished objects in the finished object thread in the Ravelry group, and I'll be drawing winners from that thread at the end of the podcast as well. So if you did actually enter that, don't forget to check the end of the podcast. I will actually send a message in Ravelry through the messenger service to let you know that you've won after the podcast if you haven't replied in a couple of days. I just wanted to mention that a couple of pattern designers have sent us copies of their patterns for some of the prizes for the knit-alongs that we're doing. So I'm going to use these two patterns that I've been sent for the Christmas craft along prizes for May. So at the end of the May, I'll draw two winners to win these patterns. So first of all, Naomi Buchanan has sent a pattern for the Only Way Is Up cowl, which I've started knitting already, and you may have seen on previous podcasts, as a prize. So I'll pop a picture up here what it looks like, and it's a lovely cowl with some textured stitches that you can use little minis up for. So that's really lovely. Thank you, Naomi. And also Jen Sheelan had contacted me to say that she'd like to offer a copy of her beautiful shawl, and it's called Bride by the Sea, and it's a beautiful lacy shawl with lots of different colours. It's like a 3-colour shawl, and it's really, really pretty. And she's also sent me a copy for me to knit with as well, so I'm looking forward to that. So make sure that you come along and join into the Christmas craft along, and you might be with a chance of winning one of those patterns. So let's get on with the knitting section. So we've got one finished object. I've got my Gryffindor socks. Ta-da! So this yarn is from Nora George, and you can tell how old this is because it's got Tracy's old logo on with the cute little bird on. She's now changed her label a little bit, which you all know, I'm sure. So these are my Gryffindor socks because they're the Gryffindor colourway that Tracy dyed up, and they're the sock yarn, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And I've just knitted a nice plain sock because I wanted to show those lovely little micro stripes that are in the yarn. So like I said, this is the Gryffindor colourway, so it's for me because I went on the Pottermore website and got myself sorted and I am in Gryffindor, so these are for me. I'm really pleased with those. I really like how they've gone into little thicker stripes just by the heel there, and how they go a little bit thicker by the toe as well. I think that's a really nice effect. So I've got those finished for me to wear. Adam says he wants a pair of Harry Potter socks too. He's in Slytherin, so I shall have to dye up some yarn especially for him. What I might do is dye up a yarn so that it microstripes just like this in some green and grey, and I'm sure that he'll love those. So I shall be dyeing up some yarn before the next episode, I think, so that he can have some Harry Potter socks too, because he feels left out. Because I want to wear these every time we watch Harry Potter, which we do every few months, I suppose. I just like the sort of homely, relaxed feeling it just gives you watching the old films that I've seen 100 times. Oh dear. So that's one finished object for this time. I will pop some footage at the end from Harry Potter, so don't forget to watch that. I have got quite a lot of works in progress, most of which are probably brand new. That I haven't shown you. So I have been knitting another Afterthought Everything sock, and it's in the stage of a giant tube. So Mum's given me a hand with knitting these because she just likes to do plain knit, so she's actually knitted quite a lot of the main body of this sock, so thanks Mum. So this yarn is Ice Yarns, and it's in a standard 4-ply sock base. I forgot to get the ball band. I don't know where it is. I shall have to tell you in the next episode when I finish those. So what I will do is I'll put toes and heels in those to make a nice pair of socks, and this is going to be a Christmas gift. So I'll be on my sort of part of the Christmas craft along really, but I shan't say who they're for. So some people ask me when I've been doing the Afterthought Everything socks before, who is the pattern designer. So the pattern is designed by Erica Kempf Broughton. So there we are. I like doing the Afterthought Everything sock pattern just because sometimes you just need to just knit if you're busy visiting people and things, and you can just knit until you come to the sort of the end of the ball sometimes. Okay, so let's go on to the next project. So I'm showing you this because I should be ashamed of myself. Because the Buttercup sock knit along has come to the end. And have I finished my socks? Oh no. So this is in my Where the Wild Roses Grow colourway. And I have finished one sock, but unfortunately I got so excited about casting new things on that I haven't finished the sock for the knit along. Sorry guys. I'm just terrible. So that's one thing. I think I've done about 2 rows on that since I last showed it you, which is terrible. So next project is the Way Through the Woods mittens by Erica Mount Designs, and I showed you these on the last podcast. I think I've only done about that much, I think. So there's trees on that side of the hand, and then a little reindeer with some more trees on the back. So this pattern does say to do, so this is the Latvian braid around here, and it does say to do it underneath these trees as well, but I thought I don't like the idea of it sort of breaking up this nice sort of neat colour work, so I decided just to have the Latvian braid around the bottom of the cuff, so that goes around the cuff there. I am using 2.5mm needles, and I completely forgot to say on the last episode, so these are these Addy, oh I've left the box somewhere, I think I've put it over in one of my yarn boxes somewhere, but these are the Addy Crazy Trio. I think they're called Addy Flexi Flips in America, but they're the Addy Crazy Trio in the UK, and my lovely friend Lorraine passed these on to me, and she'd been given them by a yarn shop which I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will put it on the screen, so take a look there. And they sell these needles, and they wanted Lorraine to see what she thought, and Lorraine said she didn't really get on with them very well, but so far I actually really like these. I'm finding that because you can sort of open up this space as you're knitting round the corner, the colour work, the tension is a little bit better on the edges than I was getting compared to my magic loop anyway, so I'm reasonably pleased with how I'm knitting up those so far. It's quite a dense material that I'm producing on the 2.5mm needles. I think that the actual pattern asked for or called for a smaller needle size still, so I'm pleased that I did the 2.5mm. The yarn that I'm using is the Blacker Breeds yarn, and it's a worsted spun Jacob yarn, and there's two colourways that I'm using, dark blue clay and pale green clay. So there we go, I've knitted a bit on those. It takes me a little bit of concentration to follow the charts on this pattern. I don't really know why. It doesn't look mega difficult. I think it's just, for some reason, I suppose because it's darker yarn or something. So I haven't done masses on that particular project. Right, so I've also done very little on my Dale socks, and this is a pattern by Homespun House, but I wanted to talk to you about the needles that I'm now knitting them on. So these are the Dale socks by Homespun House, and I had actually knitted about this much before when I showed them to you, but I'd been knitting them on Magic Loop on my higher sharps, and I found that I was getting my tension issues where the sort of fold is when you're doing Magic Loop. So I undid it right back to the cuff, and I decided to get some 8-inch Addy small circulars, 8-inch rather than the 9-inch, on 3mm size, because one, I knit tighter on these tiny little needles, and two, I'm knitting colour work, so it tends to need to be slightly looser anyway. I think I'm getting on better than I did with the 9-inch circulars with these, at least I am for this particular project. I think it's because I like the fact that you don't have to move the stitches along the needle so much because they are 8-inch rather than the 9-inch. Although because these are Addy needles, they're not actually very sharp. Which the Chow-Goos I'd been using before with the 9-inch, they were nice and sharp, so these Addies aren't quite as nice, but I have actually ordered some 9-inch 3mm ones to see which I prefer, so I will let you know how we get on with those, although I do like the 8 inches here. Chow-Goo don't do 8-inch ones, which is a bit annoying, at least I can't find them. But I think I'll knit a little bit more with the Addies and then compare them to how I like it with the 9-inch ones, so I will let you know. And I'm knitting this in the cream yarn is Opal, and the sort of mauve yarn is from West Yorkshire Spinners. So there's that project. I just wanted to tell you a bit more about what the needles I'm using really. I'm not actually done that much. Well, it doesn't look much different to the last time I showed you. So that's the socks finished, and now I'm on to other things. Shock, I'm actually knitting something other than socks. I had seen on Opera Joe's podcast that she'd been knitting this really, really lovely dragon wing cowl. Hi Joe! Joe was knitting this dragon wing cowl, and she was knitting it in I think that the theme of the yarn was dragon as well, so hers is like a green colour, but I picked out this sort of turquoisey blue-green yarn out of my stash, and it is a moonshine, and it's a 4-ply, single ply. That doesn't make sense. Finger and weight single ply sounds better, and it's 40% wool, 40% alpaca and 20% silk, and that's the company, there's the label. I can't actually remember what it's called. Juniper Moon Farm. I'm trying to read it back to front in the camera. So there we go. And I had this in my stash quite a while ago, and I thought, well, that would be perfect to knit this cowl. However, I've got to the point where I've run out of yarn. I've basically got that much left, and I've got a few more of the increases to do. So this looks a bit weird at the moment. There's like a combination of drop stitches there that make it look like a sort of dragon's wing that goes around your neck. It looks a bit weird at the moment, so hopefully when I've actually dropped the stitches down and knitted a little bit more, you'll be able to see what it looks like. But you'll say, how am I supposed to knit the rest of it when I've run out of yarn? Well, what I'm going to do, I've got the end I've got some yarn left from Debbie Bliss that I actually knitted my cardigan that I showed as my blast from the past on the last episode, and I've got a ball of this left. So what I'm going to do is that even though it's a slightly different colour, I think that that'll look quite nice together with that as just the edging. So I'm going to see how that goes. Hopefully that'll be okay, because I don't really want to be buying some more yarn. I'm trying to use my stash up, especially with the Aran. I don't tend to knit a lot of Aran garments, so it'd be useful to use up what I've already got. And I think it'll be nice with a different sort of blue on the edge as well. So that's how that's coming along. I'm using the needles that they suggested. And the pattern is by Jessie Rayot, I think. Pronunciation's appalling, sorry guys. And then I've got one project to show you, which I literally cast on last night. So I bought this especially for this project at Fibre East last year, and this is the Maven colourway by Fine Fish Yarns, and it is on her core sock, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And this is a beautiful purple colour with speckles of different colours in it. I don't think you can see it very well on camera. It's not picking up them little speckles, but it has got lovely tiny little speckles of different colours. And I've chosen to cast on for the pavement sweater, and you'll see a bit of a tangle. You'll see that I've knitted loads on it. I'm halfway through a row as well, so that's good. So it's a top down sweater, so this is the bit that goes around the neck. I did a swatch and I washed it, and it came up at just under, where's my swatch gone? It came up at just under the stitch count. I've got ends going everywhere. But washed, it did come up really nicely, so I'm pleased with that. So I've knitted this in the round to get the right tension there. But I like the material that it's producing, and it's washed really nicely. And I think I was getting 22 stitches, I think, in 3 inches and 7/8, 3 7/8 of an inch. So I was only 1/8 of an inch out of the size, so I think that that'll be fine, because there's positive ease in it anyway. So I think I'm going to go ahead and knit it at the size that is 5 inches roughly bigger than my measurements. So I'm looking forward to being able to knit that. I thought, instead of knitting plain socks all the time when I'm doing travelling to different places, because I'm going to visit my parents this weekend, for instance, and Adam does the driving, and then I'll knit along in the passenger seat. So if I can get far enough before we go off to visit my parents, I can be knitting a nice easy part of the sweater around the body, which is straight down. There's no waist shaping, so that'll be nice as an alternative to just plain sock knitting. So that's lovely. So the pavement sweater is by Vera Valimaki, and I shall pop a picture on the screen so you can see what it looks like if you haven't seen it already. I'm sure everybody has. It's been around a while and loads of people have knit it already. So that is my epic load of cast-ons. I really should start getting on with some of the projects that I've got on the needles and I haven't worked on. There are a few, and they're lovely projects that just I get distracted all the time. So now on to the sewing section. So Barbara hasn't been in the podcast for a couple of episodes. Before she comes in, I shall explain. So when I first started showing Barbara on the podcast, Barbara is my mannequin, basically, which is my, well, dressmaking dummy or mannequin, whichever you like to call her. I used to, she first came on, and Adam decided that we should call her Barbara because she wears my bra. Now, because mannequins aren't always the shape of a more full figure in the front area, it's easier for me to put one of my bras on her so that she's more like my size and my shape. So that's why she's called Barbara. So Barbara, would you like to come and say hello? Welcome back, Barbara. So, this fabric I actually bought, and it is part of my confessions, when we went to Watford in London. So as I spoke about before, we went to the Warner Brothers studio tour for Harry Potter, and as we were in Watford I had to look for some fabric shops. And this was from a shop called Needlecraft in Hempstead, and it's a really beautiful butterfly print. I can't actually remember what the name of the fabric is. It did say the name of the fabric on the selvage edge, and I will pop the name of the fabric up here if you would like to find some of your own. So this seems like a really lovely soft jersey, and so far it does seem like a really nice quality, so I'm looking forward to wearing it to see how it wears. So it was quite an expensive fabric. I think it was £22 a metre, but I managed to get this Agnes top, which is by Tilly and the Buttons, out of 1.3 metres, so that wasn't too expensive. I used the standard Agnes pattern, but I actually increased the size of the arms the last time I made it, so I stuck to the same modification there. Other than that, I really love the neckline on this top. It's a really nice shape around the neck. I think it's quite a flattering shape, so that's good. I used my cover stitch machine to stitch the hems and around the neckline to top stitch it in, and it's just a plain everyday sort of t-shirt really. So there we are. I shall be looking forward to wearing that. Gosh, you're a bit squeaky, Barbara. So there we are. So thank you so much, Barbara. I do have my Ultimate Trousers by Sew Over It and my Bettine dress that's by Tilly and the Buttons that I still haven't finished. I just decided to sew something else. I got so excited because I'd bought this new fabric. I just needed to cut it out straight away. I did wash it though first and dry it so that it didn't sort of shrink or anything in the wash. Right, so let's get on to our next section. So this is the bobbin lace section. So on the last episode I showed you that I'd finished the heart and the separate little shapes that I'd been making with my bobbin lace, and I've actually finished it off in a frame. So this is the bobbin lace piece that's the sort of the main focus of it, and then I added these three little shapes on the bottom. Now this is going to be a bit soppy now. So Adam and I met on the 3rd of May in 2008, it must have been, yeah, 2008. So this 3 little circles represents the 3rd of May. We got engaged on the 4th of May, so these four little circles represent our sort of engagement date, but that was much later than 2008. I can't even remember what year it was. It was a few years ago now, and we got married on the 5th of May, so these 5 little circles represent that, so that's nice and cheesy for you. Oh dear. What I did is I've mounted it on this nice bit of wool felt that I found that was hand dyed, that I picked up from a craft fair about a month ago, and then I did some stitching just on top of there and added some little beads, and I used 2 different colours of this variegated thread. I think I picked up the thread from 20th Century Yarns from the Knitting and Stitching show a few years ago. So this is a darker colour, and then I changed to a paler colour to make it show up more, and I've just echoed the shape of the heart there, and I did some broken up stitches just at the bottom there. And this frame is quite significant as well, because we bought a few of these frames from a shop called The Range for our wedding to sort of have little signs to give people information. So this one had been used for the instructions of where people should sit when they walked into the hall. So it said something like pick a seat, not a side, we are a fellowship here, because it was sort of Lord of the Rings theme. So I've reused the frame, and that's going to go in our living room. When I finished it I thought, oh, I don't like it, but I think it's kind of grown on me. I think sometimes when you make things, because you've looked at it so much, you get kind of get sick of the sight of seeing it. So hopefully I'll like it once it's up on the wall. So there we go, that's the bobbin lace section, and I'm going to talk about some patchwork there today. So a couple of weeks ago I went to a lovely class that was run by Norfolk Quilters, and a lady called Heather Hasthorpe did some piecing with us, and the class was called Curved Piecing, and I was very excited about having a go at this. So there were 3 sections to the class, and the first one we did were these sort of, I can't remember what these blocks are called. If I remember, I shall put them on the screen. They're each individual block, so that's one block there. It had like a sort of curved with 2 different fabrics, and then I've joined several together to form this long piece, which I'm hoping to quilt and have as a wall hanging. So there we go, so that's the first piece that we did. I really liked the sort of more subtle colours to sort of go with my decor in my house. The second block that we did, I think it was this one, was this crosses block, which is basically 2 different fabrics with this very skinny little cross shape in it, and I've done a couple of those like so, and I'm going to piece these together to make a nice sort of contemporary quilt, which will probably be a wall hanging, to be honest. I like to make smaller things these days. And then the third block was this curved sort of circle shape, and I actually ended up making it into a sort of drunkard's path. And the plan is with this one is to do some panels at the sides here of plain, well, not plain fabric, but this same floral fabric, and then do some hand stitching on it maybe. But I really enjoyed this class, and it's made me feel like I really like doing this sort of contemporary free piecing technique rather than the sort of standard piecing that I sort of started with. So there we go. Hopefully I'll get some of those pieces finished by the next episode. I've seemed to have started so many different things lately. It's just, I want to get things finished so that I can actually hang something up for having a finished product. So that's my patchwork section. Let's go on to the next section, which is embroidery. Now, I had actually finished these in terms of the embroidery on the last episode, but I wanted to show you them finished. So I did have this little kit where I did these ribbon embroidery flowers in the like a rose shape. There we go. So I finished it off as a little heart. I just stuffed it with some polyester stuffing that I had in my stash, and I used some of the ribbon that came with the kit to hang it up on. If you want to find more information of what the kit was, if you look at the last episode, it'll give you all the details. I also had this little kit, which I've actually framed now, and it came with the kit with the fabric and all the ribbons and everything to do a little floral piece, and I've hung it in a little 4-inch wooden frame on the wall, and I tacked it all around and pulled the fabric in and then stitched it over the edge just to keep it secure. I could possibly put some felt on the back, but to be honest, it's not going to show, so I'm just going to hang it up in my craft room and be naughty. So there we go, there was another piece finished. I just wanted to show you how I'd finished those. And I think that, yeah, that's my embroidery section. I'm trying to rush through these so that it doesn't take too long, this podcast, because there's quite a few things to show you. Oh, and now we're just on to Blast from the Past. So I had a look in my drawer of knitted items in my bedroom, and I found these mittens that I knitted. These were knitted absolutely ages ago. The pattern is Cupcake Mittlets by Shantha Ramachandran. I hope that's right. And they're a cute little pair of mittens, nice and easy with a nice eyelet pattern on there. And they were knitted in some DK yarn, but it's a cotton base. And I did find that when I knitted these, because they are made out of just cotton, that they stretch quite a lot as you wear them. So not ideal for knitting mittens in, really. So I think I've washed them since I wore them the last time, and they've shrunk in a little bit. But I think if you're knitting things with cotton, it might be a good idea to do a smaller size, or perhaps avoid cotton for things like mittens. But there we go. They're something that I've not actually worn them for absolutely ages, so I probably should get them out. So that's my blast from the past, and I'm going to talk about a gadget now. So I'd been sent this lovely little counter from my friend Anita, who's from Gaga Knits podcast, and she used one of these to count her rows, and it's basically a little counting gadget. I'm not sure what they originally used them for. I remember when I used to work as a scientist that I used to use these to count cells on the hemocytometer, which was lovely. But I really like using this because you have to physically really click it in to make it go on to the next one, and you know that it's definitely correct. So thank you so much, Anita, and I definitely recommend those counters for counting your knitting rows. So now we're on to my confessions. Oh dear. I've not been too bad. So, as you know, I'd been to London and I picked up some other fabrics from a couple of different places. So the same shop as I got the butterfly print from, which I showed you, which Barbara showed you, I picked up this cotton poplin, which is a little bit creased because I have washed it. That's the wrong way up. There we go. So it's a really lovely pale green with some floral pattern on the front, and I thought that I'd do a cashmere Springfield top, which is the same sort of t-shirt pattern. This is what I'm wearing. There we go. So I'm going to make one of these in this fabric, and I bought a metre of that. That should be plenty. And then I found that in Watford there was like a market stall, and the market stall was called the Fabric Box, and it's in the centre of Watford. And I didn't even Google this, I just came across it. Adam thought I totally made him go there on purpose, but I didn't. It was just a complete accident. And I picked up some viscose fabric to make some blouses with. And this one, a blouse, and this one is a sort of, it's a twill weaved viscose, which has got some nice drape on it. So I was thinking of making one of the sew over it blouses, maybe the pussy bow blouse. Or the Susie blouse, or one of those. I thought that would be nice. Or maybe actually the blossom top, but we'll see. And then I also picked up this crepe fabric, which is so cute. If I get it the right way, this has got little cats on it. How cute is that? So I actually got the rest of what he had on the bolt, so I don't think there's any more of this, I'm afraid. But I got a few meters of this. I think I got 2.5 meters to make like a blossom blouse, I think, with this one. So that was lucky, picking up the last bit. Obviously my stash is getting a little bit big now, so I have to get to work with using all this fabric that I've got in my stash. So no more fabric, Ellie. Oh dear. So we went on a bit of a trip. So we went down to London in Watford, and then we visited places like Hemel Hempstead, and then we drove up to Oxford to go out for the day because it was our wedding anniversary. So we went out for the day there. Visited some beautiful buildings, so I definitely recommend a trip to Oxford if you're in the area. And then we drove up to Birmingham because Adam wanted to go to a makers fair, which was called Makers Central. Now it wasn't necessarily fabric. I think there was a couple of things that were fabric, sort of fibre based, but a lot of it was sort of woodwork, and there was some leather work and other things related to sort of woodwork and metalwork and things like that. There were quite a few different people that because Adam watches a lot of these other people on YouTube, especially a guy called Bobby Duke. Now I definitely recommend his channel to people. He's an artist and he creates things mainly out of wood and other materials, hard materials really, but he makes some beautiful things. He made this beautiful like fairy cottage out of a piece of wood. I will pop the link down below so you can see his channel. but he's got so many subscribers. He's got like 800,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. So we actually met him when we were there, and chatted to him, and he was such a nice guy as well, so that was nice to chat to him. I'm waffling on a bit now, sorry guys. So anyway, I went to Makers Central and I picked up this silver art clay. You can mould this clay into the shape that you want to say like make earrings and things like that, or pendants. And it's made of silver particles in amongst like a clay that you can move around. And once you heat it up on a hob, like a gas hob, it then forces the parts of the clay to sort of dissolve, and the silver particles come together to form a silver item that you can then wear as jewellery or whatever you like. And I picked some of this up. I've fancied this for ages. So this is silver clay, which you only need to heat on a hob, but you can get sterling silver version, but then you need a proper kiln to do it. So I thought I'd have a go with this. It was quite expensive. It was about £30 for 10 grams, but there was enough to make, I don't know, I think they had a little example. I think you could make about 4 pairs of earrings in a pendant out of this much, so that's what they sort of used used as an example. So I'm so looking forward to having a go with this. I will pop a picture up on the screen as to where I got it from, what the store was. 'Cause at the moment I can't remember and I've lost the card somewhere. Sorry guys. So I will put the information down below for you. So I'm so looking forward to having time to have a go with that. I also had ordered a beautiful pin from Sam Draws Things, and this is in aid of the Flower Power Fund, and a couple of pounds from every purchase goes to the Flower Power Fund. So I had to get one of these badges. Aren't they gorgeous? The sun is reflecting on it a little bit. It's difficult to show you, but it's so lovely and shiny and really pretty. So Sam Draws Things has got her own website as well as an Etsy shop, so you can find her there. I think just there you can find out where to get hold of her. So there we go. I'm so pleased. Thank you, Sam. So that's all my confessions. And now I should go on to the prize winners for the knit alongs and the craft along. And then I'm going to talk about my yarn that I've got on my shop update for this evening. Not this evening, tomorrow evening on the 18th. Oh dear, I've been talking far too long. So now I'm going to draw the winners for the Christmas craft along. So the first of which is the Christmas panel, which is to hold your Christmas cards. There we go. So that's to sew up. And I used the Siri and the random number generator to generate a random number, and I got post number 340, which was Peg MCC, which is Peggy from North Carolina. So congratulations, Peggy, you've won the panel. So if you pop me a personal message with your address, and I can get that sent over to you. So the second of these prizes for the Christmas craft along was a beautiful skein of yarn from Ducky Darlings, and I'm sad to see this go. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a lovely high twist yarn on her base, which is a 80/20 merino nylon, and it's called Mermaid's Tears. And this one is going to post number 353, which is Layla, and Layla's from Denmark, and her Ravelry name is FRKSTRIK, which I've got no idea how to pronounce. So that's Layla from Denmark, and I will pop your Ravelry name on the screen. If you send me a personal message with your postal address, so I can get this posted to you. So congratulations, Layla. So we've got 2 more prizes to draw. So this is for the Buttercup knit along, and the first of these prizes was a pattern really kindly donated by a lovely watcher called Paula, and she said that she'd like to donate a pattern up to the value of $7 US, and the prize winner for that is post number 10, which is Sue from Australia, and Sue's Ravelry name is Bev B33, so congratulations, Sue. And I shall get Paula to send the pattern of your choice. If Sue, you decide which pattern you want, and let me know, and I'll get Paula to send that over to you to the value of $7 US. And lastly, but not least, is this beautiful skein of yarn by Down's Sheepy Lane, and it's a gorgeous pink and grey and black. Oh no, actually it's purple splatters in there, and it's called, well, it's in a comfy sock base, and it's called Fig Jam, and then there's a little parcel of whatever that is in there. This is going to post number 7 from Canada. It's Christine, who is Sweet Lavender 1, and Christine does a lovely podcast if you're looking for a podcast, and she's called Sweet Lavender. So congratulations, Christine. Congratulations to everybody who's won a little prize. I shall send you messages in Ravelry if you don't reply to me from this podcast. But if you talk to me through private message on Ravelry, that's probably the best way to get into touch. So that's all the prizes done, and we're going to go on to shop update. So I've got a shop update on the 18th, which is tomorrow, on the 18th of May at 6 o'clock. And I've been busy dyeing up yarn. So I've had this stacked behind me. So this is just some of the yarn that I've dyed up, but there's a couple of new colourways. So the ones that I've dyed up for existing colourways are Where the Wild Roses Grow. We've got some Rio. There we go. And I've forgotten the name. You Spin Me Round. There we go. Oh dear. I'm starting to lose my voice, can you hear? Oh dear. Pink Cadillac. I've got some Purple Rain. And Bubblegum, which I haven't dyed in a little while. So this one is actually a sparkly base. So there are a variation of the different ones of my bases, between the BFL nylon mix, some cashmere merino nylon, some my normal merino nylon 75-25, and a new singles base, which I'll show you in a minute. So I've got, this is another skein of Rio, and I just thought I'd show you the difference. So sometimes the different bases take the colours quite differently. So this one is the BFL base, which is a high twist, and this is my merino nylon, which this BFL actually sucks up the colour really well, so you can see what the difference is between the two different bases. I have a couple of, well, I've got 5 new colourways, some of which I've named. This one I think I'm going to call She's Like the Wind. It's actually the same colours that I used for my Walking in the Air colourway at Christmas, but I've dispersed them slightly differently. So it's sort of an all-over colourway where there's splatters of blue and then some grey speckles on there. So I thought that was really nice and delicate. And then I thought I'd call this new colourway Time After Time by the Cyndi Lauper song, and it's got some nice yellow and some corals in there with some grey speckles, which I thought was quite nice. And this is in my new singles base. I've only got a couple of colours in the singles base, but I will be having more of that in the future because I've really enjoyed dyeing with that, and I think that works really well for shawls and things. I've got this colourway, which I think I'll call Frozen, after the Madonna song from the 90s. I won't attempt to sing it because I feel like I'm losing my voice. So there we go. That's Frozen. And it's got some nice different shades of like blues and bluey green colours. Well, I really like this bright blue sort of splash in there. And then I've got 2 more colourways which I haven't quite decided on yet. This is quite similar to the Time After Time, but it's a sort of a more delicate pink colour with some darker sort of coral speckles in there and some yellow in there too. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call that yet, but I may have an idea by the shop update tomorrow. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And I've got this one, which I have no idea what I'm going to call it, but I just had the inspiration to throw this bright pink with some mustard colour and some brown speckles in there together. So there we go. That's a nice speckly yarn. So that's all the different yarn colours I've got, but there are several bases in a few of the colourways, so be sure to have a little look to see if you fancy anything. So I think that's all that I've got to chat to you about today. I've better stop chatting because I'll lose my voice completely. Thank you so much for watching and sticking right till the end. I hope you have a really nice couple of weeks until I podcast next time. And happy crafting. Bye!